Hi everyone, my name is Monique, and today I'm going to be showing you how to play a game called Tag Team, an auto-battling and deck-building game designed by Gricha and Corentin Lebrat, and published by Scorpion Masqué, who are helping sponsor this video. In Tag Team, you'll draft a team of fighters, build their decks from round to round, and go head-to-head with your opponent until one player has been knocked out. The game is simple to play, but the real strategy comes in building your deck and carefully choosing where to insert new cards in order to counter your opponent's moves and set up powerful combos. The game comes with 12 different fighters, each with their own unique playstyle and asymmetric deck, so stay tuned to the end of the video where we'll discuss what makes each fighter unique. Otherwise, let's start with setup. To set up the game, make sure you and your opponent are seated across from each other, and start by choosing the two fighters who will make up your team, taking their corresponding fighter boards. In future games, this can be done via a draft, but for your first game, one player should take the fighter boards for Joan and Qingxi, while the other takes Bodvar with the Bodvar side face up, as well as Wang Fei Hung, placing each board in front of you. Take 2 green health markers each and place them on the highlighted start space of each of your fighters' health tracks. Then, take the indicated number of purple power cubes for each of your fighters and place them above their boards where you'll store their power supplies. Some fighters may have additional special setup instructions which can be found in the fighter's guide. For your first game, place a yellow special marker on the central halo space of Joan's board, as well as on the space with a ship symbol on Qingxi's board. As for the other player, place a special marker on the bottom space of the rage track on Bodvar's board, and 2 concentration tokens next to Wang Fei Hung's board. Next, take each of your fighters' corresponding 10-card deck as indicated by their unique symbol at the top left-hand corner, and remove each fighter's starting card with a black border and marked by a star at the top right. Then look at your 2 starting cards and decide what order you'd like to play them in. Once you've decided, place them in a face-down deck above your fighter boards with the card you'd like to play first on top. This is your fight deck, which starts with just 2 cards. Now shuffle your 2 remaining decks of cards together to form a single 18-card deck called the build deck, and place it face down beside your fighter boards. Lastly, take a moment to read through the gameplay section for each of your fighters in the fighter's guide. And now you're ready to play. Tag Team is played over the course of several rounds, and each round consists of 2 steps. The fight step, where both players simultaneously flip over cards from their fight deck and resolve their effects, and the build step, where each player adds 1 new card to their fight deck to prepare for the next round. And that's the simple core structure of the game. Play cards, resolve their effects, add a new card, and fight again. And rounds continue this way until the game ends, which typically happens when one player's fighter is knocked out by having their HP reduced to the KO space, losing them the game. So now that you know how a round works, let's take a closer look at what happens during the fight step. The fight step is played in turns. Each turn, both players simultaneously flip over the top card of their fight deck and resolve the actions on their card, which may include attacking, blocking, gaining power, or triggering special effects. Then the turn ends, and the next turn begins with both players again simultaneously flipping the next card in their fight deck. Now in the first round of the game, your fight deck will only contain 2 cards, but things will escalate quickly as you continue to add more cards to your deck. And we'll go over all of the different card actions once you've learned the basic structure of the game. But for now, just remember that each card played must be placed face up on top of your previously played card, and you are not allowed to look through your opponent's resolved cards. You'll continue taking turns this way until either you've played through every card in your fight deck, in which case you'd move on to the build step, or one fighter has been knocked out. Once you and your opponent have played and resolved the final card of your fight deck, then flip over the deck, but do not shuffle it. At this point, the fight step ends, and you now begin the build step. To add a new card to your fight deck, first draw the top 3 cards from your build deck. Of these 3 cards, choose 1 to secretly add to your fight deck, and discard the other 2 cards to the bottom of your build deck in any order. When adding a new card, you may not rearrange the order of the other cards in your deck. Instead, you may only add the new card to the top or bottom of your deck, or in between 2 cards. Because your fight deck always plays out in the same order each round, try placing your new card where it can counter an attack or take advantage of a weak spot in your opponent's deck. Some cards also grant you an instant bonus when added to your deck, indicated by a strip below the name of the card along with this symbol. After both players have finished adding their cards, you must tell your opponent what bonus you gained, but you don't have to reveal which card it was or where you placed it in your deck. Then, once both players have finished adding one new card, the round ends. Place your fight deck in front of your fighters and begin a new round starting with the fight step. Now in this game, there are 3 ways in which the fight can end. First, if one of your opponent's fighters is knocked out by having their HP reduced to the KO space at the end of a turn, the game ends and you win. The second way is if at least one fighter from both yours and your opponent's team is knocked out during the same turn, it's a double KO and the fight ends in a draw. And finally, in the extremely rare case that you are unable to draw 3 cards from your build deck during the build step, your fighters are considered exhausted, and the fight also ends in a draw. However, keep in mind that some fighter effects may make it so that being knocked out is not necessarily the end, so make sure to pay attention to each fighter's unique abilities as they may turn the tide when you least expect it. Now that you're familiar with how the game plays, let's go over some of the concepts and actions that you'll encounter during the fight step. Each card in your deck belongs to one of your 2 fighters, identified by their symbol in the top left corner. The top right shows how many copies of that card appear in your deck, and whether it's a starting card. And at the bottom, you'll see 1 or more actions represented by symbols along with a text description explaining what each action does. Each turn, the card you reveal determines your active fighter, as represented by their symbol in the top left corner. This means that all of the actions on their card are considered to be performed by that fighter. It also means that they are the default target for your opponent, so any attacks or damage dealt by the opponent will typically be directed at them. Your non-active fighter for the turn is considered to be your partner. So anytime you see this symbol in blue, it pertains to actions that affect your partner. So as an example, when playing this card, both you and your partner would heal 2 HP. Similarly, the same symbol in yellow refers to your opponent's partner. So playing this card launches an attack on specifically your opponent's partner. One of the main actions you'll be taking in the game is the attack action, which is represented by this symbol. The strength of your active fighter's attack is equal to the number of power cubes they have at the start of the turn. When you play an attack, the other player's active fighter loses health on their HP track by moving their health marker a number of spaces equal to your fighter's power. But keep in mind that power cubes are not spent when attacking, and the strength of the attack is determined at the start of the turn, as soon as the card is revealed. This means that if an effect causes a fighter to gain or lose power cubes during the same turn, such as when resolving effects with this symbol, it will not affect the power of the current attack. In addition, a fighter's power can never drop below 0, but an attack with a power of 0 still counts as an attack, even though it won't deal any damage. Some cards feature multiple attacks, such as one from your opponent and one from their partner. These count as a single attack, and you'll combine the power of both fighters when resolving the total damage. Fighters in this game are asymmetric and have HP tracks of varying lengths. As a general rule, a fighter can never have more health points than the highest number on their track, and their health marker can never go below the final space. In addition, if at the end of the turn your fighter's health marker is on the KO space, they've been knocked out and you'll typically lose the game. Some fighters' HP tracks feature various icons along the track. Certain icons grant the fighter additional power cubes, while others are unique to specific fighters and trigger special effects. Anytime a fighter's health marker lands on or passes through a space with an icon, the corresponding effect is resolved as soon as all health markers have finished moving. If multiple icons are activated, all of them are resolved simultaneously at that point. These effects are triggered whether the health marker is moving up or down the track. The exception is the hand icon. When a fighter's health marker lands on this space, it immediately stops moving. So even if this fighter were to take 5 damage, their marker would stop at this space since it contains a hand symbol. Although, this is regardless of whether it is moving up or down the track. Which means, if on a future turn their health were lower, healing would also be much slower, since they would still need to stop at each hand space. Fortunately, attacks in this game are not unstoppable. Effects with this symbol allow you to block, negating all attacks performed by your opponent and their partner during that turn. All block actions also provide a bonus effect when they successfully negate at least one attack, as indicated by the green checkmark symbol. And as a reminder, an attack that deals 0 damage still counts as an attack. However, if you block multiple attacks in the same turn, the bonus effect is only triggered once. Other actions may include bonus effects that are awarded when the card's main action was completed successfully, and these effects are considered to be performed simultaneously with the rest of the card's effects. In this example, Sword of St. Michael attacks your opponent, and if successful, you'll heal as many HP as you have power. While blocks negate attacks, they don't protect you from all types of damage. Effects with this symbol deal direct damage, reducing your opponent's or sometimes your own HP by the indicated amount. In fact, many cards with this symbol indicate self-inflicted damage, so it's very important to read the card text carefully for a full explanation. When decreasing HP this way, all icons along with any stops on the HP track are triggered as normal. But since direct damage is not an attack, it is not affected by the block action or anything that is triggered by an attack. And if direct damage is dealt on the same turn as an attack and it's blocked, only the attack is negated and the direct damage is still assigned. Other effects you'll see include the heal action, which simply restores the amount of HP indicated. If a heal action is played at the same time as an attack, you'll resolve the difference between the damage taken and the HP gained. However, once a fighter's health marker reaches the KO space, they can no longer be healed. Effects with this symbol require you to transfer an item from one fighter to another, such as power cubes. And when transferring items, you must always transfer as much of the required amount as possible. But if you don't have enough, just transfer what you can. And finally, cards with this symbol completely cancel the opposing fighter's card, ignoring all of its effects entirely. When resolving cards, keep in mind that all card actions are considered to be simultaneous and mandatory, so you must resolve them if possible. Some cards also contain keywords that pertain to timing, such as then, which means that any attacks following it must be performed after the effect stated before it. And finally, always remember the golden rule. Any effect on a card or a fighter board always overrules any rule in the rulebook. Otherwise, those are the basic card effects and actions that you'll need to know in order to play the game. However, many cards also feature fighter-specific actions. For a more detailed explanation as to how those work, refer to that fighter's section in the accompanying fighter's guide. Now in future games, you and your opponent can assemble your teams using the draft cards, choosing either a standard draft or a competitive draft. To begin, first shuffle and deal half of the draft cards to each player face down. In a standard draft, each player simultaneously selects one fighter from their hand and places it face up in front of them. They then pass the remaining cards to their opponent and choose a second fighter from the new hand, forming their tag team. The competitive draft follows the same steps as the standard draft, with one exception. After selecting your first fighter, you must also discard one card face down before passing the hand to your opponent. Now that you understand how the game plays, let's take a quick look at the 12 different fighters that come in the base game, as well as what makes each of them unique, beginning with our 4 starting characters. First, we have Joan of Arc, a noble paladin who channels the divine voice to steadily grow her team's power. Her deck offers a nice balance of offense, defense, and healing, making her a reliable and well-rounded fighter. Next, we have the Queen of Pirates, Qing Shi, who builds her mighty fleet by gaining ships and advancing along her fleet track. As her fleet grows, her card effects become more powerful, and if she ever reaches full capacity, she can drop her opponent's health to just 1 HP. Bodvar the Berserker is a rage-filled fighter who begins the fight in his calm warrior form. But if the fight lasts long enough for him to reach the end of his rage track, he transforms into the Berserker Bear, unleashing devastating attacks in his awakened state. Wang Fei Hung is a disciplined fighter who marks his opponents with concentration tokens, eventually turning their own power cubes against them. He can also transfer power to his partner, making him a strong support character with a steady offensive presence. Next, we have the Wild Bunch, a group of rowdy outlaws with a unique health track that limits how much damage they can take at once, but also slows down their healing. They're joined by a corrupt sheriff who switches sides throughout the fight, granting different effects depending on whose side he is currently on. Shango, the Keeper of Fire and Thunder, is a dangerous fighter, even to his own allies. His special ability lets him build a flame tokens on a single opponent, and if they ever reach 5, they are incinerated and immediately lose the game. However, pulling this off takes careful timing. Then there's Mama Bridget, a powerful control fighter who bends her enemies to her will, canceling their actions, redirecting their attacks, and even forcing enemies to heal her. Her unique health track includes 2 KO spaces, but if she pushes through to the final space, she revives with 1 power and 4 HP, rising again just when her enemies think she's finished. Mephisto comes with his own special token, representing the twin serpents, the Black Serpent, which unleashes attacks, and the White Serpent, which gains him power. The token flips frequently through card effects and a space on his health track, forcing players to carefully plan around which serpent will emerge next. Next we have the Fey Folk, who are 3 forest sprites in 1, each with their own health track. You control them one at a time, switching only when their HP hits 0, which turns them into a spirit. Now they can't be knocked out by normal means. Instead, they lose only if all 3 are spirits when the All Legends Must Pass card is revealed. The ultimate Black Knight, Mordred, steadily gains power each round and finds his true strength in blocking and counterattacking. Mordred has no special components or extra rules, but his hidden dagger makes him a sneaky and relentless threat. Milady is a cunning fighter who plants powerful scheme tokens face down as traps. When unleashed, each scheme triggers a random effect, ranging from attacks and gaining power to even dealing poison, reducing her opponent's HP by half. And finally, we have the Golem, a tank of a fighter who protects its partner by placing its presence token on their board. With more HP than any other fighter, it can shield its partner from harm while also gaining power when taking damage, making it a relentless wall that grows stronger with each hit. And those are the 12 different fighters that come in the base game. Now, if you're looking for more ways to spice up the battle, stay tuned because additional fighters will be released in the future. Otherwise, that's essentially how you play Tag Team. If you have any questions about anything that you saw here today, please feel free to leave me a comment down below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I really hope it was helpful. If you enjoy content like this and would like to see more in the future, please consider subscribing. Thank you. Bye.